Howdy-o, everyone. My name is TheologyMatters. I am also Eli, and I am the anomaly. I'm a 23-year-old Oklahoman that plans to be running for state rep here in Oklahoma because many of my brethren are lacking the balls to do anything, and in some degree, some of them are women. So, case in point. So, anyways, we're back with another video from my sickness. So, thank you for the 45 of y'all who chillaxed with me for the improv video of Laura Trump and how she's probably going to go after DeSantis because how dare DeSantis challenge Trump, which, funny enough, is going to be a part in here. So, anyways, let's get into this. So, America is dying and being replaced. And no, I don't mean that in a racist way. I mean that in a way of it is. So, Trump brought in for his AI advisor, Sirnam Krishnan. I'm not going to say that again because it's going to probably fail anyways. So here's the thing. He brought it in, and eventually everyone started noticing that he was bringing over very immigrant friendly, which part of this is put on also about because there was the GDP for the United States, I guess, dropped. Some of that being because our population is dying. So it seems our fertility rate for the nation is not exactly increasing, which, lo and behold, no dip, because there are problems in our nation, which I'll, funny enough, get into. But funny enough, Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy thinks that they have a solution, and that solution is to bring in more immigrants on visas. And, yeah, that didn't sit well with a lot of people on Twitter. And thank you. That didn't sit well with a lot of people on Twitter to bringing over more people and to put jobs in the hands of immigrants when we have Americans that should probably be prioritized first. And so that became a whole thing on Twitter. And then Musk, he lost. Musk lost. And I mean that in the way of he immediately lost because even the MAGA people were not happy, which was very surprising because I don't know how many times I've said that MAGA is just, drink the Kool-Aid, don't ask any questions. And funny enough, they were able to. However, there is about a half batch. There's about 50-50, I think, where there's it's fine, bruh. It's all part of the plan. And then there's the, are we sure? Which is how you should be acting. So, anyways, and it was really funny because Musk eventually started going after a bunch of the Groyper accounts, and he started, he was, woo! Someone lit a fuse on that South African, and that autism is not helping him. Sorry, it's not autism. What does he have? He has um he's on the spectrum. That's enough. So yeah, and so I'm technically called a, I don't even know if can I say this word on YouTube? Because I know I can't say the R one. So the R word, but he replaced the prefix with sub. So I'm called that purely because I'm prioritizing Americans, which we're gonna get into soon. But it was really funny to watch him kind of spiral out. Eventually, Trump came in to support from the visas for the H-1B visas. He's always liked him. He's been in favor of which is really interesting when you consider that in 2016 he said that it's neither high skilled nor immigration. But sure. But Trump's flip flopped on a bunch of things. So, lo and behold, he's flip flopped again. 8 years ago, eight-year Trump, how do I say this? Present Trump and 8 years ago Trump is very different people. And I knew that from the beginning of the 20s, no, not 2016, 2024 election. Because I hated every candidate. The only person I liked was DeSantis and Vivek, and that was about it. Because Christie was fat, Haley was a war hawk, and I kind of forgot Pence is in here. And then there was one Doug guy, but no one remembered Doug. Um, Yeah, but I didn't like Vivek after a while because I feel like he's kind of like a fish. It's like once you hold on to him, he just gets out of your hands because he wiggles so much. He just seems slippery, not because he's Indian, just as a person, he just wasn't nice. And then DeSantis had horrible people in his campaign, so I didn't enjoy that because I didn't enjoy them. So, anyways, but that's essentially the gist of how the story's going down. It is funny to watch because they're so-called the tech bros, right, or the tech bros versus the woke right, which I don't understand the difference between the two. I'm just here to state stuff. So, anyways, and to give a reasonable take from principles because that's kind of all I need. I honestly have never been part of MAGA except for after 2020 when he was basically saying the vaccines. I wasn't exactly happy with that. So I'm not part of MAGA. So if anyone wants to say anything about me, it's purely I don't care. I'm just here on the issues. I'm like an independent Republican at this point. It's not good because I hate almost every Republican. There's some reason that I've got problems with people. Like I got a problem with Mace because she's basically a 304. I got a problem with Carrie Lake because I also think she's slippery, which funny enough, both of those ladies will be probably in a video I'm going to do. Oh, I don't like Valentina Gomez because, yeah, she's a man with a uterus. And if you've been following me on Twitter, there's a fair chance you could have seen that happen because I'm pretty sure I quote tweeted that once. So anyways, let's get into the more gist of the opinionated side of this, right? So, anyways, to kind of highlight to summarize the story that I kind of just went through, Trump brought in this guy. We started talking about visas, and then it basically was spiraled into an immigration discussion. So now, from this, but before we continue, I'd like to everyone. There's a red button. It says subscribe. Subscribe. There we are, the right direction. If you could click that, and if you could click this or this, honestly, I don't care which one. Just do it. I feel like a lot of people are now just hitting the down purely because. But if I look at my analytics, there's probably like 3% of you, and I employed you, or I applaud those who are here. Thank you for listening to this message. So, anyways, starting out, we have once I get back. So, one of the issues is we got low fertility issues. Or one of the reasons that America is declining is we aren't exactly popping out any more children. We're producing children, but not the numbers that we were. Back in the 1960s, it seems we were popping out about 3.5, I think was what the numbers I was finding. And we've now been dropped to about 2. And I know this stops at 2020. It's relatively been the same where we're doing about 2. And we've been stuck at 2 since about the 1970 somethings. And this honestly, when we talk more about this trend kind of will make more sense as we go in. And honestly, with the problems that we're facing, we'll honestly tell you a lot more about where Musk and Vivek will be coming from. But anyway, so we got a fertility rate about I think this is 1.67. So it's about, I think, 2 children apiece because so in the one I found from Test Hut, that the average rate is about 1 kid per family. Now, it is using the Census Bureau, and I'm pretty sure the Census Bureau has a family is something about blood relatives, and the definition when I read it was very murky. It wasn't exact. It was said something like blood relatives being in the same house, but that didn't necessarily mean. I don't think there was parental or just parental. But anyways. So we have that married couples have maybe, about 1 kid. But I found somewhere from the census, let me beef this up. So from 2023, it looks like we're about 2, which is practically what I've been saying. So every family produces about 2 children. And, Yeah, the replacement rate, based on this study that I found, is about a 2.1. And now this was in 2023, so it's relatively going to be the same. I don't think there's going to be a drastic increase or decrease from the numbering comparatively. So yeah, so we're basically net zero. We're actually dropping because it's 2.1. It's 2 over 2.1, so it's about like a 95 or so, somewhere in that percentage range. It's not 100, or it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. So we are actually dying at this point. So now, the one things that I'd say about that, especially, is that the replacement rate is 2.1, which is very funny because we want to talk about, well, we need to grow as a nation, because this was the whole thing. The immigration stuff's kind of started because we're a dying nation, and the thing is we have a 2.1 replacement rate, but every family is only producing 2 kids apiece, and averagely, right? And so that means it's just a replacement. It's not increasing or decreasing. Like, and I understand that that's, it might sound similar, but it's like we're not multiplying. Like, there was one tweet I read one time, and it was like, the Bible says go forth and multiply, right? So if you just have 2 children, you're just replacing yourself and your spouse. But if you have like 3, then you multiplied more. So yeah, larger families would help this situation. We wouldn't be having to pull over so many immigrants, which we're going to kind of get more into. Because it was interesting when I was typing this into Brave's AI was saying, since we have a below replacement fertility rate, um, without immigration, the United States population would shrink. And it says right there. So I think that was funny because the immigration rate is bad. Like, we are better off than a lot of other countries. Like, I know in Russia is dealing with a lot because they can't produce as many children as their replacements. So they're actually dropping their fertility, or their fertility rate is dropping. But because they're not taking in immigrants, it's far worse. Now in the United States, we're very accepting of the immigrants, which is a good thing. I won't deny that. We should be allowing other people to come in this country. My only disclaimer will be how many and from where, and from who are they? Because, like, I'm not pulling in, terrorists or whatever, which I understand people come in from the southern border and are Allah Akbar. So, anyways, but yeah. So because we're not birthing too many, we're bringing a bunch of immigrants, um, immigrants from around the countries. And so, yeah, that's practically all I'm going to just say on that is immigration. It's like, it's filled with a bunch of um, immigrants. Sorry. I'm looking at my notes. So anyway, so what does this mean, right? So we got a low fertility rate. We're bringing in a bunch of immigrants from other countries that aren't American, right? Who some don't even naturalize because reasons. Don't even say, I wouldn't say learn the language. I would say there's been a few times where it is weird. I live in Oklahoma, and occasionally when there's some Hispanic person who's speaking more Spanish than English, it does make me wonder. And not in a way of like, let me be clear, not in a way of like, they're speaking Spanish to each other. That's fine, because that's probably what they were grown up with. Like, let's say they came from Mexico, they spoke more Spanish. But it's like, if you're talking to them, they're very soft speaking with their English, or they're very like, they still speak Spanish to you anyways, as if I know Spanish. So anyways, so from here, this is the main point that I really want to get on. And this was kind of the point that I was always thinking of, because Vivek and Musk, they eventually got comboed in this, but they missed a vital part in all of this, and are kind of getting villainized correctly, I would mind you. Are getting villainized purely because oh gosh, sorry, I just saw my stuff flip. Are getting villainized for kind of good reasons, because they want to bring over people from way across the ocean to come here, but yet they don't want to spend the time in with Americans. So this is like a tweet that I'm bringing up. And so Musk is aware of the low birth rates and everything, but he still thinks that, we should be pulling in these other immigrants. So, but what I have to correct Musk on is because he wants to pull in these other people to fulfill these jobs, which I understand there's kind of also some debate over the H-1B visas and how some of the jobs on the visas can be fulfilled probably by Americans. And there's, some pay discrepancy stuff with that. And I'm not really going to discuss necessarily that, because that's for others who have been looking. That's just a completely different discussion. But my main discussion was with what Vivek and Musk were basically ascending to, with these bringing in a bunch more people via the H-1B visas, and that is the American family is not worthy anymore. Which, as an American, kind of offended. And Vivek really should be offended, because he was born in Ohio, and then, or I think it was Cincinnati. I looked him up quick. And then Musk is from South America. So, his connection here is kind of new. But, like, for crying out loud, I may have been entitled more. I may be an American more than him, purely just because I was here. But it's interesting because they gave up an American family by choosing to bring over these immigrants, because it's by prioritizing the foreigners, then you're saying that the American family is unworthy and that they can't be trained and that they shouldn't be invested in, because that is essentially what Musk said at one point. There was someone saying, like, well, we're just dumb. He said, well, Americans are dumb and then they don't know things. And so someone asked, well, can you teach us? And then Musk basically said, F off, which it's a never ending loop of, you're not smart enough. You're not smart enough. Will you teach me? No. So, I'm not smart enough. Will you make me smart enough? No. And so we're in this ever ending loop of no. So anyways, but I would argue that the American family is worth to invest in, because that is the whole point in becoming an American, is to invest in the country. And the country is not an idea, like Vivek has said, which I think is kind of weird. I've never heard. The only person I've ever heard that says America is an idea. No, it's a land. It's a land. We are the United States of America. Everyone I've ever heard has said, this is a place. America is a place where da 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 happens. Not, we are an idea of a congregation of people doing X and Y. The only time I heard it was Vivek while he's running for president and then failing. But it's just, I've never heard it just be an idea, because as an American, I've never thought it just be to an idea. And even while he was running, people were still coming after him with that, because Vance once, I think in the RNC, he said that we are a nation. He did not say we were an idea like Vivek, which may be a reason why we're in some of the Vivek may not understand this, and because his version of America is, well, we're an idea of principles, but then there's not. We're a land, bro. We're a land. We're a land. Excuse me. Now, so the American family needs the investment, right? But here's the issue. We are still dealing with, even if we weren't to pull over immigrants, because yes, there's available jobs that Americans fulfill, but here's the thing. We also need Americans to be here. And part of that, honestly, is that we have a lot of problems that just need to be dealt with. The American family is dying purely because of stuff we've allowed, and stuff that we still allow as a nation, and stuff that needs to be dealt with, like abortion kills hundreds of children, millions of children. It's not a problem of women get, it's not a problem of conception, but of birth. We can provide the workers. Like, and I hate to make us sound like cattle, but like we are able to do this. It kills millions yearly. So we should be able to do this. We should be able to have hundreds of children because we should be creating a government which allows families to not just be two. Because I know everyone talks about, well, we can't afford kids. Well, my question is define afford, because some of you are buying iPhones every year for like, $1,000 or whatever. There's, this is just what I'm sorry, I'm going everywhere, but it's like afford in my question. Yeah, I have to ask, what do you mean by afford? Because there's a range of, we need to go to Disney there's a, we need to go to the Disney World every year. And then there's the, like we need to conserve our money, and then there's just we're dirt poor, which, and some here and there. Yeah. But, you know, yeah, you're gonna sometimes it's people need to also prioritize family, which is kind of part in the culture, right? Because abortion is basically killing family. Because man and a woman come together and thus create life with God, and that kind of kills the family aspect because you can only have a family with a child, and so abortion kind of kills that. And then of course you got dumb nuts called dinks. For those of you who aren't aware of what dinks are dinks are dual income, no kids. And they continue to do that. It's basically Disney adults um that are married. Yeah. Which and I put the quotes there because it's like you're not really to some degree married, because even the church and their annulments, there's total, fruitful, faithful, and free. So I'm gonna focus in on fruitful. Fruitful implies children. So if the marriage was never supposed going to be fruitful, like let's say the dude was putting on um, rubber, or the woman was on the pill, that can be, well, you weren't actually producing any, or I wouldn't say producing, but I hate to make us sound like cattle. I'm sorry. I'm stopping myself from that, but to bring life into this world, right? And that's a part of marriage, is to have children and to raise a family. And so if you aren't going to do that, then the question has to go, well, are you in marriage? Because the marriage is to get each other to heaven, but there is that's a part, and the other part is, well, we have a duty to raise children now in the faith. And so, but anyways, but the dual income kids, yeah, are basically the Disney adults who spend all their time, all their money in Disney World, because they get to party and do all the stuff. They don't get to, continue their legacy, or, watch Frozen for the 47th time. And I can't believe I'm using a meme today. But, and then of course we got marriage and divorce, right? Because of course a lot of people don't understand what the hell marriage is for, because they don't understand what sex is for either, to be fair. But the rate's about what, 50%. And then and of course I question that math, because it's like, define marriage. Like, does Vegas marriage count, which then you get married and then like the next day you're like, what did I drunkenly do? But and then of course we got women who are, or let me start with the men. Sorry, bros. There's the men going their way movement, which is basically like, we're not going to get married, and thus, we're not going to have children or anything. It's just going to be me, and I'm okay with that, because women be crazy, and to some degree they're not wrong. Um, excuse me. And then of course we got women being very much feminists. So and with that, it's like women also being feminists, and a lot of men also advocating for that. Like, I wrote Charlie Kirk during AmFest for the Turning Point had written about men and video games, which I don't understand what is this obsession with a lot of the older people. Like, I know I'm Gen Z, and so like some of the criticism was coming my way, but I don't understand what's the thing about the video games. Like, a lot of people target on that. Um, but it was very hypocritical of Kirk to talk about men. You need to be doing This, you need to quit. As some people were saying, it's basically be cucked by your wife. I'm not going to say necessarily that, but I will say Kirk is kind of, Charlie Kirk, just to be specified, is kind of missing the point because he's got how many female turning point female influencers who are, putting aside marriage. Because, like, when you take a look at this chart for full-time parents, we see that men, nowadays, we don't become parents until we're about 27, but women become, about 24. And I wouldn't necessarily say, like, I think some bits men we need to, yeah, I would reduce that. Like, I'm 23, so I'm I'm over here. I'm way down here. I'm in this line almost. Like, I'm like right there probably. But, you know, first time parents, it takes two though. You need the man and the woman. Um so it's kind of hard to get married and have children if there's no woman because she's got all this feminism in her blood. And like there's many um conservatives who have allowed a feminism light version, but it's still feminism. It may not be third wave, but it still is feminism. Like I was seeing about Kristen Hawkins, Kristen Hawkins. She does the Students for Life at campuses, and someone made fun of her. A leftist feminist made fun of her because she wasn't with her children, her 4 children, mind you. And so she kind of was going after the feminists because it's like, well, isn't this what I'm supposed to do? What's the problem with that? But then of course, like her fighting the feminists is one thing. Her fighting me is a difference because I'm going to be asking you, well, why aren't you with them? Because, yeah, how exactly are you going to be a mother if you don't mother or nanny your kids? Which is also like, I think a lot of people with Musk has a bunch of kids from various women, which I wouldn't recommend, but I think there's a lot of nannies with that. So it's like Musk isn't really being a father. No wonder his kid went to the woke mind virus, probably because he's not fathering. He's not at least viewing in, you know? So anyways, but I definitely say like a lot of these problems would be solved uh, if we rejected one, the transgender agenda, the acceptance of homosexuality, because that was the transgenders was birthed from the homosexuality, from the homo accept that. Sorry. The acceptance of the homos was birthed from feminism, and then feminism, of course, was birthed from Protestantism, and of course, Protestantism was the birth of pride, which we all have, but there is the humility of united to the one true faith, aka the Catholic Church. Because I'll tell you, Catholic families are pretty dope. So, anyways. So that is practically it, other than the point that I like to mention this. So Vivek he wrote this long thread. So this is about 2 paragraphs of it or so. So Vivek isn't wrong that, some of this does start with the school and with the family, right? Like that's even the whole point with, I would say some of the African American community. It's like when you prioritize school, they don't act like they don't act like a gangsta, like, sorry. Like that's kind of, the culture that it is in of just being the bare minimum. But when you actually prioritize the school to be something more, then, you get something like Ben Carson, right? The neurosurgeon. Yeah, neurosurgeon. He's not, yeah, brain. Yeah. So anyways, but I think this is just funny that he wrote because it was kind of a weird rant. Excuse me. It was kind of a weird rant, I won't deny. Because he was saying basically Americans should not be enjoying America, more or less. That we should, be stuck inside doing math homework and being tutored 24/7. Okay, well, bruh, I don't think that's the case. Because basically at the end of this, he basically called us idiots to some degree. Because I will tell you that you can be smart and intelligent. You can be smart, but intelligence is a very different thing. Like, just because you got brain knowledge doesn't make you good. And even more than that, being smart isn't the only virtue or character trait that I would care about. There's also honorable, virtuous, brave, moral. A lot of other traits are needed than just being smart, which Vivek obviously skips over, which I want to say is a little bit of the Hinduism, because, of course, as a Christian, it's like, yeah, obviously I'm going to spend time in to sanctify myself in that becoming a saint, right? And in embracing virtues of humility and meekness and intemperance, right? But Vivek doesn't necessarily have the same mindset of becoming a saint, because being a saint doesn't mean anything to him, because it's all, I think Hinduism was about all reincarnation. Although there is like their heaven. I think they have like a heaven, but you have to be like awesomely good. So it's just going to be a reincarnation cycle. So Vivek is either going to be another human or a caterpillar. Hinduism is weird. I'll leave it. Sorry. Excuse me. I need to head to bed soon anyways. But yeah. Sorry. But I just think it's ironic that Vivek talks about this, because I want to talk about my life just for like half bits, because I'm kind of done necessarily. So if you're kind of tired with the America is dying and being replaced, because we are, and the destruction of the American family, we need to turn that around, and that requires us to do our due diligence as Americans. And so from there, it's like, well, we need to fight for the American family. And so that begins with us today to stand up. I know there's a lot of Gen Z guys like myself who are not happy with how the world is and wish it to be better. Well, you have two choices. You either shut up and let it happen, or you decide to be a rebel rouser and you make sure they know that they will not be doing that anymore. Hence why I'm running. It's one of the points. I wouldn't say main, but one of the points is that we have been dealt with all of this for so long that we need to actually stand up and fight back. And that's going to require some of us to do things that we probably weren't wanting to do. Like, I wanted to be an engineer, which I'll kind of get into, funny enough. But I'm going to be doing this, assuming Oklahoma lets me, and I hope Oklahoma will. I have great ideas. I also have balls, and I don't mean that biologically. I mean that figuratively. Yeah. I'm also kind of a bit of a wisecracking dumbass, so it works. So anyways, so the other thing, but so other than that, to Vivek. So you consider me an idiot because I'm not a millionaire. Well, I just got out of college, so you can't expect much from me. But here's the thing, Vivek, you might want to say, well, I'm a billionaire. What are you? And I will tell you, it's not what you are, but of who you are. Or what, and in that, your character will mean more to me than how much you are worth. Your net worth could be $120, but you could be the greatest man to walk this earth, not because you're rich in monetary value, but in virtue, that you live a saintly life. And that is worth more than the countless billions that you are worth, or millions, or whatever the title is. And I didn't look that up because I don't care. Okay, you have money. Cool. So does a lot of other people. But the problem is with having a bunch of money, it's what are you with that money? Are you a good moral man? And if you are not going to be a moral man, which because we could argue that whether or not you are, right? But of course we got two different standards. You have your standard of society. I have my standard of God. So that's the one thing I would say to Vivek. And to Vivek, I'd also like to point out that this right here, right now, you are listening to a 23-year-old who in 8th grade started taking high school college algebra, which then got him into to get into a program in Oklahoma. Excuse me. I am so glad I'm almost done. Sorry. So I got into Tulsa Tech. It's basically a kind of trade school where they do the welding and masonry. So I got on the pre-engineering. And so for my freshman and sophomore year, I was doing the pre-engineering. And so after my junior year, that's when usually you do it more full time. And so half my day was at Tech and the other was at my home school. And so I was doing the pre-engineering where I was aerospace engineering, coding, crap, I'm missing the other class. Civil, which I hated, which is why I hate architecture, is because civil engineering was boring as hell. Well, we did architecture. Actually, I think it was an architecture class, so that's why I hate architecture. It was boring. As I say, I like making the planes, and there is a joke in there about September, FYI. So that I can't say on YouTube. But and then from that, a 3.8 something GPA in the public school system. I took concurrent college classes in my senior year, and my senior year, I was working a part-time job. So yeah. So, and then from there, I went to OSU with an ACT score of 25 because that's all I needed, and I didn't study for it because I felt pretty confident that I could get a 21, and lo and behold, I got over it, so I was good to go. And I was going to OSU anyways because OSU is an ed accredited, and that's kind of like the standard. Like if it's labeled as that, it's a good engineering school. And so, I went there and I got okay, so technically I'm not counting in the last class because I technically failed it, but I didn't need it to graduate. So, and I had about again another 3.8 GPA, about or a 3 point, I think it was a 3.7 actually, a 3.7. And it's like a 3.5 something now, but you take away that one F and it was like a 3.7. So Vivek, so like with Vivek calling everyone stupid, I am normally smart guy. And there are smarter guys than me who are way more motivated in the engineering than me, who weren't Indian or other immigrant status. They were full on American white people and they were doing great. So anyways, that's all I've got today. Thank you all for watching. This video kind of superseded the one I had about Lake and Valentina, so that'll come out soon whenever I deal with it. It's New Year's Eve today / this morning. Technically it's before. Anyways, so thank you all. Again, hit the up or down, hit the red button. That would help me out. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Rumble, I keep forgetting about, but I'm there. And then I'm here. So yeah, I said Instagram, right? Yeah. So anyways, and I have merch in the spring store. So anyways, I think that's it. Anyways, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Leave me alone. I'm going to bed. So long.